Hi, everyone. It's Carmine Danisco. We are back on the Launchpad podcast with or on the Launch Network. I welcome you back to our sixth season. And with this launch of our sixth season, we are going back. We're kind of going back to our beginning, our roots, and we're talking a little bit about our roadmap, our sequence to inventing. And I am going through step by step and doing a brief overview of each step in the sequence of taking your product to market. Now, again, as I speak about this on each show at the beginning, this may be a little behind where you are in your invention sequence or invention trials. But if you wanted to, go back and make sure you covered each step, make sure you're on the right path, you may want to go back to and download the first shows, subscribe, and they will automatically most likely come onto your device, whatever you're using to listen to these shows. If you're just starting out in the invention world and you're just tuning in at this sixth show, uh, I invite you to subscribe and go back and listen to the other shows because we're going step by step through the invention sequence. I call it the secret sequence of inventing. And again, this is an awesome system. I've taken hundreds of products through it. It's not foolproof. Of course, obviously, you don't have to follow it step by step and say, okay, next step, you have to do step 5 at this exact time. It's just made to kind of keep you on that balance, keep you on that line that in case you start getting pulled in the wrong direction and you start saying to yourself, my God, this is the greatest product in sliced bread. I don't need to do all those things. It'll kind of pull you back and say, whoa, you have to do some of these things. Some of these steps are detrimental to the success of your product, or they're detrimental to your livelihood, to your resources, to your time with your family, to funds that you're going to spend, because you may spend these funds or spend this time or spend this time away from your family in the wrong sequence, and that will hurt the probability of your invention making it as far as it has to. Then you may have to say, oh my God, I've used all the resources. I had that one contact that I used at the wrong time. Now what am I going to do? He didn't answer his phone, or he told me he wasn't ready to look at it. And, so it may get you to the point where you may have to pivot or do something else, or you may not be able to move forward. Now you have to go get an investor or get a partner because you did a step or a couple steps outside of the sequence that I'm talking about. So it is important to follow the sequence. Don't have to follow it word for word. Not every product has to go through every step. But again, this will be a baseline to help you with the process of inventing. A lot of us think we have the greatest idea since sliced bread, but we don't. We still have to work at it. The idea could be great, but an idea is just an idea until you have moved it forward to the point where someone can buy it, sell it, use it, test it. You have to get to that point. People don't pay for ideas. We believe they do. We wish they do. They don't. So please, let's go through this the correct way. So we're on our sixth show where today we are going to cover two things that are super important. Now we're getting into, after our first 5 shows, we weren't spending any funds. We were making sure that our idea was legitimate. It was a good idea. It could move forward. There was a market for it. There were probably people out there that would want to buy it. It was usable in the market. It was manufacturable. We went through these first several steps that at any point we could have bailed on the idea. We didn't have to follow through because we have other ideas. We just are going step by step to make sure that this idea is the one that we want to keep moving forward. Now we're starting to spend a little money or some time or asking people to help. And we're slowly going to get that to where it's more and more, because that's how we have to do it. We constantly have to keep ourselves in check because we believe, again, we have the greatest idea in the world. But we have to make sure the rest of the world knows that. We have to be ready to sell it to them, show it to them, as I just talked about, package it. It has to be manufacturable. Where you're going to make it. So these are all things that we're going to cover. So today, our 11th step is going to be to get someone, or you, if you want to do it on your own, to help us design CAD drawings. Okay, now when I say CAD drawings, I want them to be initial CAD drawings. Okay, so think of it like this. You're thinking about building a house, okay? And you and your wife or your girlfriend or just you are thinking about buying a house and you're just throwing some ideas around. You don't really want to go and design the house yet because you're still throwing some ideas around. You're still thinking of things. So you go to an architect, a person that does the skeleton, the design of the house that you want, and you tell them some ideas of what you're thinking about. Maybe he'll have some ideas on how that could work. You tell him you want your house to be round, you want it to look really cool, you want it to look like a spaceship, whatever you want it to look like, you're telling him these ideas, and you just want some initial drawings or some initial ideas on how this idea can work to build a house. Now, it's the same kind of concept. You're going to find somebody that is going to be able to give you some initial CAD drawings. You are going to sit down with them and you're going to say, this is what I need. I don't want them to be the full-fledged. Now, CAD, just want to let you guys know, CAD drawings, computer-aided drawings, CAD, C-A-D. So stands, if somebody says, hey, I need CAD drawings done, now you know they are computer-aided drawings. It's not some magic. It's just short for computer-aided drawings, CAD drawings. So you're going to get somebody to help you. Now, how do you do this? How do you go about doing this? Now, the best way that you can possibly get these CAD drawings going is probably sit down with a person that's local. Maybe go to one of the colleges, call your local inventor groups for lists of inventor groups. You can go to the United Inventors Association, UIAUSA.org, and they have a list of local invention clubs, inventor clubs that have been around. Also, you should join the United Inventors Association. It's a good idea to do that, and it's free. They have great resources. You can always email them questions on who they recommend maybe to help you with the CAD drawing. So it's always good for them to vet out. So the UIA has been around for years and years. It's a nonprofit. Its sole existence is to help inventors make it through this craziness of developing a product. So as I was saying, CAD drawings, we're going to try to develop some CAD drawings. Finding a CAD developer or an engineer, someone that you can talk to. They have to be communicative in a sense. They don't have to be local, but it's just nice to be able to, for the first couple of times, to meet with them and sit down. You might want to be able to show them things. And if you had to, obviously, with things that are happening in this times, with the pandemic that we're having, it may be some type of Zoom call. So you may end up using somebody that is not local. But again, in normal times, it's nice to be able to sit down. Now, this doesn't have to be the person that you use to design your product. It's just an idea to get the initial drawing on paper, because you may have decided that, you know what, I just want to license and I just need a basic drawing so that I can go to a 3D printer. I can get somebody to 3D print it. I can get somebody in my garage to make it. You just might want to get an idea, overall idea, what it looks like, or you want to be able to use those CAD files to show a prospective licensee. So again, we're not spending a lot of money, not spending a lot of time. We're just getting started with these CAD drawings. Now, let me back up a little bit. When you approach a CAD developer, an engineer, someone who is going to help you, you do not have to ask them for a non-disclosure agreement. You can if you want to. It's nice to have it, but you do not. And the reason why you don't is because you have filed just prior, this is why we did this, you had filed an initial provisional patent. Now, you are going to tell the engineer, the CAD designer, the people at the college that you call and say, I have a patent pending product that I need help with. Doesn't that sound so much better than, hey, I need some help drawing a product that I have an idea? No, you don't have to say that anymore, because you filed for only a few dollars a patent pending product. So now you can go to people and show them your idea without worrying. The patent isn't that powerful, but it's still, in their mind, the people that you're telling, you have a product that's patent pending. So just wanted to throw that out there. There's reasons that we have these in steps. Some people are like, hey, where's the patent? Why aren't we patenting the idea? Why step one? We should already getting a patent. No, this is a progressive, step-by-step solution to taking your product to market. Some of them may not make sense, but they will towards the end. If you have a question about that, email me, call me, get me on social media, and I'll tell you exactly why each step is in its exact spot. People might argue the fact with me, and that's okay. We want people that are going to test our ideas, test what we do, because this could change slowly. It's not going to, the overall is not going to change, but we may say, hey, you know what? Step 14, I think now over the way the market has changed, we should do step 14 at step 10 and put step 10 where 14 is. We're constantly might be adjusting a little bit, but the overall design of this roadmap, this sequence is pretty solid. So that's, again, why we have done the provisional patent. Now, if you didn't do the provisional patent, you should ask the engineer, the person that's going to do your drawings, for a non-disclosure agreement. If he doesn't have one, get one. You can download one from the internet. If you need one, again, email me, call me, get me on social media. I will send you one. I have spent thousands of dollars on legal documents. Any document that you probably need, I can send it to you. You might want to modify it a little bit. I implore you, please don't go to an attorney. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with attorneys. I love these guys. I use them all the time. My best friends are attorneys. But we are trying to do this, even if you have millions and millions of dollars, we're trying to do this on a shoestring so that we can test the efficacy of our idea. If you throw money at every problem, you're not really solving the problem, because it's going to come back inherently towards the end of this process. So if we can build our project, our product during this process without just throwing money at a solution, it shows that our idea is a good idea. It has legs. It can survive in the market. So if you don't do the initial provisional patent, which I recommend you do at some point within the next several steps, you may want to ask the CAD designer or the person that's going to be helping you for a non-disclosure agreement. I can get you one. You can get one from the internet, wherever you need it. There's another point that's not on this. That's not on this roadmap. The reason that's not on this roadmap is because it's not something that I tell everyone. It's kind of a secret. And ask your anybody that does work for you, any kind of consulting, any kind of outside resources that you hire, that you are going to pay to design anything for you. That means your logo, your packaging, boxes, color, design, your CAD guy, your engineer that we're talking about right now at step 11. This engineer, this is really the first external person that you have brought into the mix. Ask every person, every single person that helps you, that does work for you, that you hire externally, to sign a work for hire agreement. Now you're saying, what the heck is a work for hire agreement? I have seen multi-million-dollar companies get brought to their knees over, these are 10, 15-year-old companies that have gotten brought to their knees because they didn't have one person sign this document whilst they were getting their logo design, their branding done, their colors for anything that they were getting designed, their website, anything that is done externally as a consultant. If it's done internally, it's an employee, you probably have some kind of documentation and you're kind of covered because it's an employee. Any external consultant, anybody you're hiring to do things, they own their design work. Anything that they design for you, they own it. You are using it. They're giving you the ability to use it, but they own it. Now, I'm going to give you an example that might help. Wedding photographer. Okay. Whether you've hired a wedding photographer, somebody has, but a wedding photographer, then you hire that wedding photographer. They come, they take pictures of the wedding. They go all over the place, the reception. They have hundreds and thousands of pictures. Then after the wedding, whether it's a month, a week, 2 months, several months, they send the pictures over. You say, wow, look at all these pictures. They're awesome. You choose the pictures that you want to put in your wedding album. Cool, right? You choose them. Whatever amount of time passes, you get that wedding album, maybe copies of it to give out to friends and family members. Now, here's where this work for hire document will hit home. Try to go and get those pictures copied. There's several pictures in your wedding album that you love. You might want to make Christmas cards. You may want to just get just those pictures and send those out to friends, and you want 20 of them, you want 50 of them, whatever it is. Put them on your thank you card, whatever. Call the wedding photographer, ask him for copies or just a negative. You want to get some copies made. Hey, I want to get some copies of this one picture made. He or she is going to tell you how much it's going to cost, because in reality, he owns those pictures. Most of the pictures that you see will probably have a do not copy print on the back of the picture, because in reality, the photographer owns the pictures and the negatives that he snapped. Unless at some point you made some agreement that any pictures he takes, you own them. You may have had him sign a work for hire agreement, but that's what a work for hire agreement means, that any work that is done, you own the complete ensemble of work, not just the right to use it, but you own the actual work that was done. They have to hand you all the files. They have to hand you everything that was done when you ask for that. Okay. So work for hire agreement, same thing. If you can't find one, you have an attorney, maybe he has one. Don't get one made. Don't spend $1,000 for one. I can get you one. I can send you one either way. But the work for hire agreement, plan on using it a lot, because if this is hitting home, I know millions. I know companies that were worth millions and millions of dollars that when they tried to get rid of their marketing company, tried to fire their artist, tried to do something and move on, that artist, that marketing company said, yeah, we'll take off. Here's your final bill, and they can ask for whatever they want. If you're a 10-year-old, 15-year-old company and your branding is solely built on all the design work, your logos, your colors, all of those things, you actually have to rebrand your company if you don't want to pay what they're asking. You would have to rebrand your company. They own the documents, they own the files, they own the design, just because one person did not get a document signed. And I've seen it happen. I've recommended to everyone, work for hire document. I could talk about this one all day. So please, it's not on the list. It's one of those secrets that listening to this podcast, you're hearing. Other people don't hear it. When I do this invention workshop and things like that, very seldom I speak about the work for hire agreement. So you guys are hearing this in the secret sequence. So work for hire document. Please, if you don't have one, contact me. I will get you one. Super important to have every consultant, every person that's working on this project sign it. You may want to have them put an NDA in that document just to have it in case. Here's the cool part. And again, I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent on this because it's so important. You show that work for hire document to an investor. Say, yeah, I have several consultants working on this. One's doing the podcast, one's doing the website, one's doing our logo and branding, one's doing the packaging, one's doing this, one's doing the design work on the product. And you have a work for hire agreement for all those people. That investor is going to be so impressed by what you've done, what you accomplished, by your organization skills and your knowledge of business. It is going to be tenfold. You will move up ahead of so many people. So it's just one of those things that secret, unknown secret. If you've never heard of work for hire document, this is why no one knows about it. You won't hear people talking about it because they really don't know anything about it. Please get one signed by every consultant, even if they're not doing the design work for you. Whoever you hire externally, have them sign one. Very, very important. So CAD drawings. Let's go back to the actual CAD drawings. I got on this tangent, but it's super important that I told you that. And I'll probably mention it again as we progress through these shows. So your CAD guy. I'm not a sexist. CAD guy, CAD woman, CAD person, whatever you want to call it. Let them know that you just want, right at this stage, a basic layout. I just want a basic layout of what it could look like, maybe their thoughts, but let them tell you what their ideas are before they implement them. An engineer or a CAD designer is another spoke in the entire wheel, okay? You don't want the CAD designer or engineer to be the hub. Your product is the hub. Everything that is done is got to treat it as a spoke. It's just one item that has to be done. But each person that you hire they believe that their spoke is the most important, okay? They believe that if they aren't working on your idea, that it's never going to come to fruition. There's nothing wrong with that. It just shows that they're passionate about what they do, but it's just one thing, okay? A CAD designer, a CAD engineer, don't take business advice from them. He could be a great business person, okay? But that's not what his job is. His job is going to be focus his job on one thing, and that's to give you CAD designs. That's it. That's all you want from them. You don't want them to be with you for the life of this project. That is their goal. Their goal is to plant roots in this project and be with it the whole time. You don't want that. And again, I'm not saying that they're a bad person. Your job is to get that spoke tightened, move on to the next spoke. And that's what this sequence does. So when you work with a patent attorney, we're not working with them yet, okay? Don't take business advice from the patent attorney. You don't have to say, hey, what do you think of this idea? If you ask a patent attorney what he thinks of this idea, he's going to say, I love the idea, but you need to have a patent, okay? If you go to the dentist and you tell the dentist that your foot is hurting, that dentist is going to work on your teeth, okay? That's what he does. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not doing anything wrong. You're at the dentist's office. If you go to a patent attorney and you ask that patent attorney, what should I do with this idea? He is not going to tell you to run off and go to manufacture it, go get a licensing agreement. He's going to say, well, we need to patent it. Nothing wrong with them doing that. So that's why this sequence is so important. You're not going to visit these service providers at the wrong time, at the wrong place, at the wrong sequence. Very, very important. I'm going to be going off on these tangents on every probably step because they're so important. And that's what we do here. That's what I do. I get this and I have this sequence down and we run them projects through. We run the projects through. And sometimes we get halfway through the sequence and we go, you know what? This project's not going to work. It's going to be too costly. It's going to be too expensive. It's going to cost too much to ship. It's going to cost too much to store it. You know, how can we shrink it down? We got to go back to the drawing board because we've only done the initials, but it doesn't seem like it's going to work. But we haven't spent huge amounts of money, guys. We've just put in some time. We've gone through the sequence, but that's what the sequence does. At any point, it allows us to pivot. But we haven't made detrimental mistakes that we can't go back. Okay, that's what's so important. We've done this incrementally. We've done this through the correct sequence, that if we have to go back and do something with our CAD designer or with the design, whatever we're doing, we have that ability because we haven't put all of our eggs in one basket. That's why the sequence is so important. So you're a CAD guy. Locally, distance, we're all getting used to virtual conferences, virtual talks, and workshops, and different things. You might want to learn the CAD software yourself. There's several different ones out there. If you want a recommendation, you want to learn it yourself, that's great. It is going to put a dent in the time frame of making your project if you want to do those things. So you might want to have a CAD guy or CAD person helping whilst you're learning the CAD software, which it's really fun. There are some colleges, there are some courses that need your project. So you may call a college or a local learning academy and say, hey, listen, I have this idea. I'm looking for some help. Do you have a design or engineering course? And if they do, they might want to take on your project for free. If you work with a school, I'm going to go back to this. Schools are awesome to work with. I work with several here in the Tampa Bay area. Make sure they're going to sign a work for hire agreement. You do not want to go in partners with a school unless they're going to invest huge amounts of money. You do not want that school owning your idea, owning your drawings. You don't want to be fighting that. So CAD drawings, we're going to talk to the CAD designer, whoever we have, that we want some basic drawings. It may take a little while for them to get something on paper, go back and forth, make sure they understand what their product does, what you're trying to achieve, and what makes your product stand out. Make sure they know that the bells and whistles are sometimes the most important component. There may be just a little handle or whatever on your idea that really changes the game. They might not be a user of your product. I get a lot of products here that are for makeup and hair products and things in that sense. Obviously, don't need them. But I need to know why the initial items are important. I need to know what that user is, that avatar. Who is the user of that product? It's very important to know who your user is, their age group, their sex, what they do, why they would want to buy your product, what wouldn't they like about your product. Try to build that avatar that's going to like or dislike the changes or things they will like as you progress. So it's very important that this CAD engineer is going to be communicative. You need to be able to either email, Skype, text, however you're going to talk. It needs to be okay with you to do that way, to be that way. So again, it's very, very important that you find this person that can help you. If you need some recommendations for some awesome people that are low cost, I don't want to use the word cheap. There's guys that that are going to want to charge you $500 an hour. Do not spend $500 an hour on an engineer, on a CAD designer, unless you're building a rocket ship or something that is so important that any small little issue could result in death. But even if you were going to do that, at this stage, you don't need to employ that type of developer, that type of engineer. Okay. Try to find somebody that is, will work within your budget. Okay. Try to budget out how much you should spend with that. And if you need some help with that, I don't want to talk about budgets and things and costs and stuff here on this particular series. But if you need some help with that, let me know. If it just sounds so outlandish, don't do it. There's also some sites that you can hire people to work for you on a per job basis. So there's some sites out there that you can do some search. I have some recommendations for that. Email me and I'll get you some recommendations. So the CAD guys person, just speak with them. Tell them you want a basic drawing. You're not sure if you want to move forward or not, and you want to see if it's feasible. Get it on paper, on the computer. Take a look at it. See what it looks like. Sizes, measured out. Put the specs on paper. And then you have something. Now you have something tangible that you can look at. You can make some changes. You say, that's just small. I think it needs to be wider. I think it needs to be bigger. Whatever that is, you can get to do that. All right. So that's the CAD stuff. I could talk about CAD things. Again, I could make hours and hours shows about this. I've done complete workshops on CAD designs and engineers, working with engineers and getting CAD designs done, because you don't want it to be this long, drawn out. One of the biggest problems that our inventors have run into is they've worked with some engineers and they're just in this engineering death loop. Okay. And it's not the engineer's fault. It's not the inventor's fault. It's just the process's fault. Like, instead of following a process, the engineer and the inventor are constantly inventing. Okay. And the inventor says, hey, we should make that round and put a little hook on it. And then you'll be able to hang it on the wall. And the engineer goes, wow, that's a really cool idea. Let me make those changes. I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. And the engineer goes back to the drawing board. He's making those changes for you. Really cool. He puts a hook on it, makes it round there. And while that engineer is making those changes, you're thinking of some other changes. You're thinking of something else that's going to make it so awesome that everyone in the world is going to want your idea. And the engineer sends you the drawing, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. I was looking about that hook, and I think the hook should be a little straighter so that someone else can use it for this. So now you're trying to solve 50 problems with one invention. And the engineer goes, hey, that's pretty cool, because the engineer's job is to do what you want. Okay. The engineer isn't a business person. The engineer's sole issue is to keep you in this loop, because what do? They engineer. They don't manufacture. They don't sell products. So as soon as you leave his loop or her loop of engineering, they're gone. Their project is done. The checks stop. Okay. But if an engineer is smart, he will get you to the next step, because when you bring that product to me, I'm going to say, hey, who's your engineer? This product is really cool. We got to make a few changes here. I am going to say, hey, Mr. Engineer, Mrs. Engineer, I need these couple changes. Please hurry up. Yeah, they might charge you for that, may not, but I am going to keep them in the loop. They're not going to say goodbye, because we're doing the sequence correctly. Okay. That's why I'm saying initial CAD drawings. Okay. We have to specify to the engineer, we just want some basic drawings. Okay. We are not inventing with the engineer. The engineer is not an inventor. He might be his own inventor, but you don't want him inventing for you. Okay. You don't want him to give you business advice. You just need the initial CAD drawing. And again, I could talk about this all day. So please, if you need some more information, please, or you can get, like I said, send me an email. I would love to talk to you on the phone. If you're getting to this point and you need some help, get in touch with me, whether it's email, text, get me on social media, because this is super important. We're getting to steps when you start having to spend resources, funds, time, meeting with people, talking with people, design work. Those are resources. When you start doing this, I want you to move smoothly. I don't want it to be frustrating, because things like this, friction like this, can kill your idea. They could slow it down to a crawl, and you could get discouraged and not move forward. And it's not anything that you're doing wrong. It's just the sequence of things. Very, very important. Okay, CAD drawing. We covered those. I think I beat that up. I think I beat that up pretty good. So after the CAD drawings, now again, remember we talked about each of these steps could take weeks. It could take a day. It could take a couple of weeks. Each of these steps is very important. I'm not saying that has to be done. You have to go through 5 steps in one day. So the next step, after you deal with your engineer, you get some initial CAD drawings. We want to, if possible, if your product can do this, or if it's a feasible type thing, we want to do a basic, and you see the words I'm using here, initial and basic. A basic works like prototype. And the reason I'm using the word works, because in my mind, there's 3 different types of prototypes. There is a works like prototype that doesn't look anything like. It might, but it doesn't have to look anything like what the finished product's going to look like. It just has to perform the operation that your idea or invention is supposed to do. So a works like prototype can be just a bunch of things put together that will achieve the outcome that you're looking for. Works like, it's in the name, works like prototype. Okay. Now, the next type of prototype is the looks like prototype. Okay. It's the opposite of the works like prototype. Now, the reason it's the opposite is because you may need to just show someone what it's going to look like. It's going to fit in the refrigerator. It's going to fit under your counter. It fits in your toaster oven. Whatever you're making, whatever it's doing, you're making a looks like prototype. Does it function? It could, but it doesn't have to, because it's in the name. It looks like prototype. And then the third is both together. Looks like, works like prototype. Could be expensive, but you might be able to put those 2 together afterwards. Testing. So the looks like prototype, the works like prototype is our next step. And the reason it's the next step is because we have no idea in reality what our finished product is going to look like. We may want to know, but we haven't made one yet. We haven't tested it yet. We haven't designed it yet. We just talked to a CAD developer. So we want to build a basic works like prototype. Okay. Works like, we just want it to function. We're going to go off of our CAD drawings, and we will find out how it's supposed to work, what's it going to work like. So that's why the engineer, he's just doing some basic stuff to see how we can make this product. Okay. So you could go either way. Now, if it's a product that, and this is what I mean about skipping back and forth. If it's a product that doesn't matter, it doesn't really do any specific need in a sense, or it has to do one thing, maybe it's a hairbrush, you can design, obviously, the looks like and the works like almost at the same time. Okay, those are things that you kind of have to decide. That's what I meant about it. This isn't as strict as I would want it to be, but you also have to have some leeway. If it's something that has a single goal, a single operation, or it is a little bit easier to make a looks like, works like at the same time, then go ahead. Of course, don't think I can't do that, but so yeah, when you see that I'm saying create a basic, a looks like or a works like prototype, you have to really think about yourself, but try not to spend money towards that. If it's going to cost a huge amount of money to create both or one that does both, you may want to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm still in the testing phase. Let's just do this. If it costs a little bit more, I'll decide. So that's one thing. So really that is both pieces. when we create that looks like or that works like prototype or both, that is going to give us the ability now to start testing, to start showing others, which we can now, because you got to remember, you have a provisional patent, your patent pending. You're saying, oh my God, I can't show anyone. Yes, you can. You can show people. That is the reason we did the initial provisional patent. So you don't have to say, I hide it. Everyone's going to steal my idea. I can't show my neighbor. I can't show an investor. I can't show maybe a partner that I want to bring in. You can show them. You have CAD drawings. Look at all the work that we've done, that you've done, stepping through this from that first step that we started. Okay. There's a reason we're stepping through it this way. And I'm hoping that you're starting to get that aha moment as to why we're doing this step by step in this order, in this sequence. So I'm going to hang up for today on this 6th series of the sequence of inventing, the secret series of inventing sequences. It's very important that we follow these, that we look through these, and I hope that the information I've given you on this particular show is going to be helpful, because we're really going to start moving along on your idea, on your invention. Or if you're listening to this before you're starting, that's awesome, because then you can go back and listen as you progress. And it's going to give you an idea of maybe what you want to invent, how you want to invent it, or when. It is cool. If you listen to this, a lot of times I'll read a book before I do something. And then when I go to do it, I'll read the book again and I'll start doing it. So it's kind of pretty cool if you're doing that. So for myself, Carmen Danisco, reach out to me if you have any issues, any contacts. You can search for me, carmendanisco.com, contact me, or get me on social media, email, whatever you'd like. And I would love to hear from you and hear your progress along this process. If you have some suggestions, send them on over to me. I would love to hear from you. If you guys disagree with what I'm saying, I want to know why. I would love to hear that too. Because again, nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. I just believe in this particular sequence. I am open-minded. I would love to hear from anyone who wants to maybe challenge some of these steps, and maybe I can switch them up. They're not written in stone, but I know that they work, but maybe I can get them to work better. So I'd love to hear from you if you have some. So tune in. I'm doing this every 2 days. I'm launching a show. So tune in on the next shows. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review for the show, please. Anything that you could do or say, whether you like, don't like, I would love to hear from you, as I said. So for the Launchpad on the Launch Network, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time. You all take care.